guest today is Kgomotso Ramathea from the African Travel Trade Association, and I'm delighted to be able to welcome you. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Steve, and thank you for having me. As you've said, my name is Kgomotso Ramathea, and I am the CEO of the African Travel and Tourism Association. And for anybody here that doesn't know who we are, well, we've been around for about 33 years now. Atta. It was established. I feel like it's a bit of a homecoming, Steve, actually, because it was actually first founded in Kenya as a body, really, to try and promote more travel from what we call source markets, and this is primarily Europe and North America, into Africa, and to allow lodges, people that do transport, people that do experiences, to really have more visibility with people that arrange holidays, that book holidays, with the view then to put Africa as a continent, well, first East Africa, but generally Africa broadly, in a more positive light in these markets. Challenges and perceptions about Africa, but also just making sure that there are opportunities within the tourism space coming from this space into Africa.
Yeah, fantastic. And I believe, as an association, you do have some initiatives around sustainability and ethical behaviour to try and promote that. Can you tell me a little bit about some of those initiatives?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We are a member-based organization, so we have members spread across many parts of East Africa, South Africa, a little bit of Central Africa, and a little bit of West Africa. And what we try to do as an organization is to promote responsible behavior and to encourage our members to do the same. We've got a number of programs. We do training workshops. We very recently partnered with the Long Run with the view then to give our members toolkits and really, ammunition is a bit of a strong word, but to really equip and empower our members to behave a little bit more responsibly. Having said this, Steve, what we've discovered, we did a paper last year called Rooted in Africa. We discovered actually Africa does really well in sustainability in general. In fact, many destinations look to Africa for key learnings. And many of the things that the world has taken over and are calling trendy and very popular, we've been doing for centuries, and maybe as a body, as a tourism industry in general, we need to be really proud of our advancement and really own all the things that we're doing with pride, because they really are. We haven't, a lot of the practices that are really embodied in many of the places have been going on for years. They're not trendy. They're part of how Africa does business.
Absolutely right. I've often find myself saying the same thing. My experience in Southern Africa and Eastern Africa, even with what used to be called ecotourism and has now become mainstream. We're talking 30 years ago with all of this. So you're absolutely right. Africa has a track record that you'd barely believe from the negative stories that seem to hit the press. Do you have case studies of all the positive initiatives that are going on that people can dip into and have a look at?
Oh, there's many. We have, as atta, a program called Atta for Action. And part of that is that every year, in just to also backtrack, every year in June, in the summer in the Northern Hemisphere, we host a business to business platform called Experience Africa. On the first night of Experience Africa, we have the Art for Action Awards, which actually celebrate, and there's many case studies in many categories that are actually informed by the UN's SDG goals. So there's many cases of businesses right across the continent doing incredible work. You get people like Game Watchers and Porini Safari, a conservatory that does incredible work in terms of conservation, but also community work. And how, a lot of the time, tourism sometimes can feel a little bit academic when we talk about it as you and I. You and I can sit here and talk about, well, how does tourism benefit locals? Again, to the point of many businesses in Africa have been doing this for years, for decades. Game Watchers and Porini is one example where the locals that support the conservatory actually get a commercial benefit. So when people are very proudly talking about I'm benefiting from tourism, it's not just talk. It's actually building livelihoods that is around tourism. And so people are gaining a greater appreciation for visitors coming into the conservatories because they appreciate that it is because of that that they then have a livelihood. That's just one example of many. And I urge all of everybody listening here and watching this to please visit Atta for Action. It's on our website, atta.travel, and look at many examples from Zambia, South Africa. You get, and they're not just in wildlife, you get the Pangolin Foundation, for example, which is based in South Africa and Namibia. And the key, as you know, pangolins are very wild, very special animals. And a lot of education really has to go into it. There's a community in Zimbabwe that actually has as pangolins, they believe pangolins bring good luck. And if anybody has seen a pangolin and harms a pangolin, you are actually insulting the local king. It's those kind of examples of, again, community involvement and instilling pride in everything that we do in the tourism space.
Yeah, absolutely. Which puts me into another sort of tension, and that's the issue between tourism and conservation. What's your take on the growth of tourism numbers and the proliferation of tourism operators versus the need for wildlife conservation?
I believe there has to be a balance. I mean, I've just given an example about instilling pride. And I believe we have to arrive at a place, Steve, where we, conservation has to be around not just for us, but for future generations. And for that, it means respecting the environment and respecting the wildlife and appreciating that for us to be able to benefit, not just for today and for next month and next year, we really have to protect um, and to a large extent limit or to use the land and the wildlife gently such that we are able to sustain it. And I believe it's yeah, it's a very tricky one, but I believe that it lies in being able to find a balance in limiting and being gentle with the land and with the wildlife while allowing for tourism to thrive. And I believe there's still a lot of learning in that. I mean, you and I, Steve, will know we've read about lodges going up, you know, constantly and questioning the sustainability and can the land really sustain all of this development while staying true to really the nature and the wildlife. And I believe it's a debate that is worth having. Do I have the answers? No, but I am glad that the conversation is happening because with that brings awareness. If we don't talk about it, then we don't talk about it.
It's critically important, isn't it? Because I know there's more to African tourism than just wildlife, but wildlife it equates to the brand, doesn't it, in many ways, particularly in the eastern and southern parts of the continent. Um, do your members take it genuinely seriously that without protecting the wildlife, they're not protecting their own businesses?
Steve, before I even get to that question, you said something very important. The wildlife is not the only offering that is there in many of the, in East Africa, South Africa, or in many of the places that offer wildlife. And I believe therein lies an opportunity for businesses to be able to, we call it diversify the product, and do not have all your eggs in one basket, as it were. I believe there is so much on offer in terms of cultural immersion, in terms of learning. If you visit a place, I'm sure you will also attest to this, and people who visit regularly will say, yes, being with nature is incredible, but also some of the most memorable experiences involve talking to people and learning something and really coming away with, I had no idea that this happened. Earlier this morning, just before I joined this call, I was talking to somebody. We're in a co-working space where our office is, and she's just said to me, "I've just come back from Tanzania." And I love it. And I met the Maasai people. She didn't even mention the wildlife. She mentioned the people.
Yeah.
And she was there for 16 days.
Yeah.
And I think therein lies really an opportunity in trying to package Africa, not just as a wildlife destination, but as a destination where you can actually really learn different cultures. And there's many, one continent, 56 countries. But also back to your question about, do our members take this seriously? I mean, last year, November, we wrote a paper called Rethinking Human Wildlife Boundaries for a Sustainable African Future. And even today, people are still talking about how important it is that the industry, we start to rethink and behave differently so that and these aren't people on the these are people really in the tourism industry who want the balance, who want the sustainability, who want the conservation, who want, the leopard numbers to grow and the rhino numbers to grow. Because I want our grandchildren to see rhinos in the wild and not to hear about, oh, there used to be these rhinos. It sounds like unicorns, It sounds like it sounds like they might be fictional, but we want that for ourselves and we want that for future generations. And to say this is an important subject, I think really underlies, it's very topical. And I'm glad it is topical because it means we really need to challenge some of the behavior that we have gotten accustomed to and really start to behave differently, even as professionals in travel who design holidays, who sell holidays, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so what are the major trends and challenges you're finding in travel and tourism to Africa nowadays?
I mean, the white paper that I've just alluded to was, I don't want to say it was a response, but it came at a time when we're talking about proximity, we're talking about instant gratification, we're talking about how, you know, social media as one example. On the one hand, social media is wonderful because it shows us places. We're able to discover new destinations from social media. But on another, because it is curated and because it is a production, really, it really sets unrealistic expectations. Suddenly, somebody sees a video of an influencer on safari, having seen la 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 la, all of the big five, and then they come in expecting the same and not understanding that nature has a rhythm. Um, and you can't it's not a case of we're going to call the rhinos because we know so and so is coming. It is and this is the beauty of nature. It's the unexpectedness. It's coming in wanting to see a rhino and being wowed by birds and insects and tracks on the road and it is all of that and these are some of the challenges that we have found. The proximity issue, Steve, as you and I both know, it's an issue. It is respect, really, to the practice of being on a game drive and understanding that proximity does not necessarily equal being nose to nose with a wild animal. It is being able to really enjoy being in nature, even if there is no animal to be seen. Because the African sunsets are incredible. And just being in nature and listening to different bird songs. And there's a lot more than that. And these are just only two issues out of many that we have seen lately.
I remember when I was first had the opportunity to immerse myself in the African continent, it was the wide open spaces and the big skies that I remember, and that's still the case, even with a lot of land use change over the years. And for people from the UK and from Europe, and from North America for that matter, and from Asia who go and visit Africa, I think that's still one of the main attractions, isn't it? Regardless of whether there's a rhino or a lion to be seen, the fact that is, wow, there is still a huge, beautiful planet here.
And it really does put our existence into perspective, does it not? Because being in those vast open spaces and realizing you're a visitor here and you are visiting this place. And so as with any visitor, there's courtesy, there's behaviors, and there is respect, really. You wouldn't come into my house, and when I ask you to leave your shoes at the door, you say no. And so it is the same mentality, but also it is also realizing that it is different. I feel like sometimes we forget that to visit a place where there's vastness, where there is no pollution, when the stars are so close, you feel like you can touch them. That in itself is a gift.
Absolutely.
And you need to be able to stop and appreciate that. Sometimes as a people, we're too in a rush to get to a lodge and immediately ask, is there Wi-Fi? And the beauty really is going to a place and being thrilled that there is no Wi-Fi, because it means you can be a little bit more connected with the place you're at. So yes, all of that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is down to people like yourself and myself, our organizations, ATA and Sacred Nature Initiative, and many others I know who are in play, to tell the story, to celebrate the product, and to encourage people to visit it. Don't be scared. Don't feel that you have to keep away, but that there are ways and means of maximizing the experience for everybody's benefit.
Absolutely. And also that the place is vast. There isn't one area that is a bucket list experience. Being able to sit in a, oh my goodness, in a Namib desert
Yeah.
and just marvel at the landscape that doesn't even look like you're on Earth. Like, it is all of that. And it is also, I feel like we need to get out of the mentality of ticking boxes and you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this, but realizing that travel is a luxury. To be able to get in an aeroplane and go somewhere and experience a place that is very different from what you've accustomed to, and meet people that are very different to you and learn from them. That all of that, I think, is luxury. So, and it is up to us as well to challenge, people who then consume social media and go, well, yes, I want to go at such a time, and I want to see this, and I want to see that. To be able to say, well, there's a lot more to a holiday than all of that.
Yeah.
and and yes, it's a constant evolution, and I hope we see the changes in our lifetimes, Steve.
Well, it's not all negative by any stretch of the imagination, and you mentioning one or two countries there reminds me that the tourism product and the wildlife product, for that matter, varies quite significantly. I mean, for me, Namibia is the archetypal big open space and photogenic like you can't imagine. Botswana and Zambia is still wild, beautifully untouched by humanity, untouched in quotes. Um, Tanzania has great wildlife experiences. Kenya and South Africa are probably more organised and more accessible. So each of those countries has a super attraction for anybody who's really interested in immersing themselves in it.
Gosh, absolutely. I mean, you've just literally listed an array. And this is another thing. People often say, oh, African safari, as if it's one thing, and it is not.
No.
When you go to Madagascar, for example,
Yeah.
you see lemurs that you wouldn't see in Botswana, for example. And um, you and so every little place has its own unique story to tell.
Yeah.
Angola is coming up and more and more,
Yeah.
and again, very rugged, very, very. I don't want to say underdeveloped, but not very new, but also very exciting.
Yeah.
Something different to see there. You go to Zambia and Zimbabwe, over and above the wildlife, you've got these incredible. Um, um, I mean, the Vic Falls,
Yeah.
and so there's so much difference in all of these places that you can't just do one thing in one country and call it done,
No, not at
right?
all.
Because it isn't. You go to Rwanda, you see something completely different.
Yeah.
You see to Uganda, and this is the beauty. Africa is not just one place; it's many, and there's lots for everybody to enjoy. And in Sierra Leone, for example, they have huge birding
Yeah.
community. or birding species. There's literally everything for everybody. Um, yeah.
You're giving me goose pimples and itchy feet. Here we are sitting in the UK in the middle of our northern winter, and we need to be out there on safari.
Yes. And we're talking with wonder in our eyes about how beautiful it is out there.
Yeah.
And yet here we are, 17 degrees.
Well,
Yes, I'd rather be there.
but these conversations help our winter to be a little bit more manageable, so that's also positive.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, it's really
Absolutely.
wonderful talking to you. You're obviously very enthusiastic for your African product, and as we all share the passion. So I think finally, in promoting our own work in Sacred Nature Initiative, you've been very supportive of Jonathan Angela Scott's Safari Etiquette project. Is there uptake in your membership that having these sort of protocols of behavioral guidelines is a useful thing?
Oh, absolutely. When we issued our white paper, Steve, we actually had a few of our members coming. There was a one member in, I can't remember the region, saying, "Can we use this to train our
Yeah,
guides? Can we
absolutely.
use this as a guideline?"
Yeah,
Because we are industry, we were all helping each other. What you do in safari etiquette is much needed education and really filling in the gap of this behavior, but of also bringing all of us people that are really passionate about conserving, you know, um, the wildlife, and really just making sure that we're all able to enjoy it really responsibly, but that we're all able to enjoy it, not just for us, but for the future. And so the uptake, yes, absolutely. And we'd love to see more. And we'd love to collaborate even more
of course.
because this is a joint effort. It's not just my work, it's all our work. And I'm so happy that again, these conversations bring awareness. We were not having these conversations 10 years ago, and I'm glad we are now because it means slowly, slowly, we're chipping away at old stereotypes, and we're really positioning Africa as this compelling, exciting place to come not just once, but many, many times and enjoy so much, in many of the countries. So, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're reading from the same page in the same book on this story. So, yeah, thanks very much for all of your input there. And as you rightly say, we'll maintain contact and share initiatives as time goes by. So, let me say thank you for
Thank you.
your conversation today, and good luck
Asante
in your
sana,
work.
Steve. Yes, thank you very much. Thank you for having me on, and we will keep the fires burning, as they say.
Indeed, go well.
Thank you.